Here we are, Real Recovery Talk. I am your host, Tom Conrad, in today's episode. We've got Benjamin B.
What's happening, everybody?
How you liking my jingles, Ben? Aren't they? They're good.
They're all right, man. They're all right.
Yeah. And we also have Jaclyn. Jaclyn is finally here. We've only been asking for this for over a year now. Jaclyn, say hello.
Hello.
Jaclyn, say hello.
Hello.
We know you're loud, so just let it go.
And we also have Maya. Maya.
You're welcome.
Maya's been on the show a couple times now, and Maya is one of our primary therapists here at Rock Recovery Center and has had the luxury and the privilege to be Jaclyn's therapist. So, first things first, thank you for tuning in to whichever podcast app it is that you choose to use, whether that's Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play Music.
Did you say YouTube?
You probably should not have eaten a piece of cake prior to doing this podcast.
Why?
I'm pretty sure you're on a sugar high.
Sorry. Yes, Ben, I did. No, I didn't say YouTube. And thank you for tuning in on YouTube. And, we're enjoying the YouTube stuff, Ben.
Yes, we are.
Isn't that your greatest following, like platform-wise?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
That's what I watch on.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you're one of like the 7 views that we get.
That's not true, Tom.
We get more. But anyways, if you ever have any comments, questions, or concerns about your specific situation or for a loved one, you can always reach out to us, Tom at realrecoverytalk.com and Ben at realrecoverytalk.com. And Jaclyn, what are we here to do?
Talk about recovery.
Turn your mess into your message.
Well, thanks for that, Seth.
He probably should have told her about that prompt like prior to this.
Well, she subscribed. We thought she would know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know I was supposed to say it.
That's okay.
She clicked the little bell and everything.
He can edit. Don't worry.
Yeah, I can, but I'm going to leave that in.
Okay, fine.
All right.
You know.
Jaclyn, thanks for coming on. Really do appreciate it. I know you're nervous, and, that's totally cool. You got Maya here to your side, and, she's probably going to do the majority of the talking.
Because she always does. We like teasing Maya, if y'all haven't picked up on that yet.
Yes, they
Yeah,
do. They enjoy it. I mean,
Maya, just make sure you talk into the mic, okay?
I'm actually a woman of few words.
Yeah.
But when I do speak, it's fire.
It's
Powerful.
it's worth listening to, I guess. Jaclyn, thank you for coming on the show. And, you brought your child with you, Renly,
I did.
who's a
Fur baby.
wiener dog.
Wiener.
He's a wiener dog. No, but in all seriousness, we've been wanting you to come on for a while now. And for whatever reason, you've been reluctant to, but now you got Maya next to you. So that's good. She'll help navigate you through the mucky waters of Real Recovery Talk, So let's just start off. I want you to go a little bit back into your just your childhood, what you're willing to share, what you're comfortable with sharing. But remember, a lot of our listener base is families and loved ones. And, we do have some addicts, some alcoholics that aren't in recovery that probably should be in recovery. And we also have people that are in recovery that listen. And but primarily, I would say the vast majority is families and loved ones. So remember that as you're speaking. You're talking to probably parents or spouses or something of the like. So, tell us a little bit about yourself and we'll go from there.
All right. I'm Jaclyn. I'm an alcoholic addict.
Hi, Jaclyn.
I was born and raised in Delaware, and I am the only girl in my family. I have 2 older brothers. I'm the youngest, and I grew up in a pretty good family. I mean, everything was pretty normal, except for I just felt like I never really fit in anywhere. I went to school, Catholic school, for 12 years. My middle school, I had a lot of friends, but that changed when I had to go to a different high school than all my friends, and I got put into another Catholic high school, which was not a great experience for me. I think that's where a lot of things started for me. I just felt like I didn't fit in there. And I kind of led me to hanging out with the people that were also outcasted. So I kind of got into using drugs and, you know, smoking weed and things like that you do in high school. When I started dating a guy that was older than me. And then it kind of got into like more serious things, you know, pills and things like that. And I mean, by the time I was graduating high school, I was like a full-blown heroin addict. And I, you know, not too long after that was in my first treatment center, which was honestly a horrible experience. It was not a great place. There was, you know, a lot of drug activity, honestly, in there. And I honestly just actually met people in there that taught me worse things than I already knew how to do. So it kind of just started a whole, you know, kind of cycle of things. But
How old were you when you did that treatment? 18, 19?
I would say 19.
And that, where are you from?
Delaware.
I don't know if you said that or not.
I did.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, I must have blanked out. Sorry. I can cut this out. I'm thinking.
What, you looking stupid?
We're not worried about that.
Hang on. So when you say you went into treatment and you got exposed to things that you otherwise hadn't done, or like, what do you mean? Be more specific.
I mean, when I went into treatment, there was like, I don't know, it just wasn't like a great place. And, you know, people were bringing drugs in there. They were going off the campus and bringing things back. At like my first night there, they kicked out like 36 people.
Wow.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It must have
How
been a
many-
big place.
It was big. Yeah. I won't say where it was.
Oh, yeah, probably better not.
How many people were there at a time? How many people could they hold?
Oh, I don't even know. It was big.
Yes. Hundreds?
Thousands?
All right. Calm down.
All right.
I wouldn't say all that, but I mean, it was pretty big. They had like a mansion for like all the girls. That's where the girls would stay. And then they had like apartments for the guys. And then they had a whole detox building. And it was on a big property.
So when you, after that treatment, what happened? How long were you there?
Full, you know, I was always there longer than like everybody else. So like I always went to treatment during like the cold months, like November, December, January. So I would get stuck there in like a snowstorm or something. When I was supposed to leave, I would have to stay longer because of something like that. I was always there for like 36 days or something like that.
You went there more than once, it sounds like?
Mm-hmm. But kind of like all my treatment centers. I was there like 30 days or more.
And then you came to Rock and something clicked.
That's right.
So that was at 19. How many times would you say you been to treatment before you came here?
I think 6.
Wow. And your mindset, because your mindset going to these treatment centers was what?
Well, honestly, every single time that I've gone to treatment, I've had to be forced, like physically forced. And I hated it then, but I'm like so grateful for my family that they did that for me. But like it would come to the point where like I was at one point like homeless in a bad area. You know, I was just sleeping on benches. You know, it was not good. And my dad actually drove out there and just like didn't know where I was, but just waited around to like find me. And he actually like had my friend and like a couple other people chase me down and catch me and like hold me down. And they literally zip tied my hands together and my feet together and took me home.
Wow.
Like physically forced. I was out of control.
So when you, and feel free, anybody else chime in here. I got questions I can ask all day. When you finally, the time was up, let's go there. Cause I mean, and I say this a lot, we all, as far as the war stories goes, we all have stories for days. Take us to when, the gig was up. How old were you? What happened? What led you into treatment this last time?
So the last time that I went to treatment, it just got to like a point of like hopelessness. I had moved down here actually, a little over 2 years ago, and I was just not doing well, like mentally, things just got kind of out of hand, and I wasn't prepared to handle it. And I was in a new place, I'm living in Florida. I don't really have anybody here. And I actually spoke with somebody who helped me get into Banyan, actually. And I went to their facility in Boca, and I was like, okay, that's it. Like, I'm just gonna do, it's not, it's not that bad. It was bad, but it's not that bad, and I'm just gonna do 2 weeks. And I got there, did 2 weeks, and they were like, yeah, no, you're going to PHP. And I was like, no, I'm not. And I did. I went. And it wasn't until like, I was like almost through PHP, and they were like, you're going to go to sober living. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm going home, going back to my apartment. And they were like, no, you're going to go be around godly women. And I was like, I'm not joining a convent here. I'm just trying to stay clean and sober. And, they convinced me to give it a shot, and I ended up here at Rock.
I remember the day.
Me too.
Oh, stop. It wasn't that bad.
When did you run into Maya for the first time? Let's bring Maya in. Maya, say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody. How are we doing today?
Make sure you're talking to the mic, Maya.
Okay.
Maybe like point it or like twist it, get it to, like.
Is that better?
Oh, hey, Maya's here.
There she is.
Hello.
So it was interesting as I was listening to you speak, Jaclyn, because I remember as well when you first got here. And to see the woman that you are today blows me away. Because you were so broken and frazzled and just defeated, and which in all actuality is kind of a beautiful place to be when it comes to the surrender that's necessary.
Yeah.
Let me pause you there. Why
What?
Dig into that a little bit. Why because again, families and loved ones, why is that a beautiful place to be from both of you?
Oh, well, as far as I'm concerned, I have gratitude. And, for those family members out there that are watching, and anyone that's watching, I'm also in recovery. And I have gratitude for the fact that I was like what they call a low bottom addict, because I don't think I would have ever found recovery had I have not literally just destroyed my life and felt alone and desperate and isolated and hopeless. I needed to be broken down to that extent before I was willing to put in the work that was necessary, because recovery, it's simple, this thing, but it's definitely not for the faint at heart.
I unintentionally I don't use this phrase often. I don't think I've ever said it on the podcast. I think just because I hear it in the room so much, but they refer to it always as like the gift of desperation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think I hear that term so often that I don't ever use it, but probably some of our listeners have never heard us say that, and that's what it comes down to. Gift of desperation, G-O-D.
Which is why it's so important that our family members allow their loved ones to go through that process.
And I want to touch on something coming back. I was gathering all my thoughts based off all what's been said thus far. And if you look at Jaclyn's treatment history, for instance, it sounds like you were right out of high school. You went to treatment.
Yeah.
A lot of times, and you said you didn't think you had a problem at that time, or it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
Or...
I mean, I kind of always knew that I was like messed up, but like I just didn't care.
She wasn't ready.
I wasn't ready.
Yeah, and that I'm not ready part right there. We don't talk about this often, but this is why it's so important to get like a professional involved with this because there is such thing as premature intervention. Mm-hmm. Like if you push somebody into treatment
Correct.
when they're not ready, when they haven't had the consequences that they may need,
Yes.
then you may ruin a future opportunity when their willingness to do it on their own is actually there.
Correct.
And I've seen that happen a lot of times. For instance, I'll throw out a really extreme case, but there was a young man from Indiana who basically came down here because his mom caught him smoking weed one time. So she like put him on a plane and said, go down to Florida and go to rehab. And the rehab center took this kid. Next thing you know, he's down here and kind of like Jaclyn was sharing. And I want to advise too, let me come out and say, like, parents, loved ones, don't be afraid of this. Like, if you're sending your kid to treatment, just to put it bluntly, your kid's probably already a junkie. But, in this case in particular, this kid got caught smoking weed once. His parents sent him to rehab, and now he's around people that are smoking crack and shooting heroin.
Yeah.
Like where this mom had no business sending this kid to treatment.
Yeah.
Like that's a very extreme case, but I reiterate, that's why it's so important to get professionals involved. And
we come back to this time and time again with the family. And I'm the therapist that facilitates our family weekend. And it is, I literally have to say to them, stop doing what you're doing. Because whether you know it or not, you're contributing to the disease. You are supporting the disease versus supporting their recovery. And it's so counterintuitive for these families because, what else would they think other than, oh my God, get my kid help. Like, I need to save their life. And in all actuality, this kind of works the opposite way. And it's tricky.
Yeah. On the other end of the spectrum, I feel like I don't want to mislead anybody. So
Yeah.
I gave that one extreme example. I just recently had another extreme example on the other side of that, where I had a uncle that wanted to get his nephew into treatment.
Yeah.
And the nephew had just overdosed at a Burger King on fentanyl. And the uncle gets me on the phone. And he's like, I don't want my kid around, or my nephew around a bunch of junkies. And I flat out said to him, I said, sir, your nephew is a junkie.
Right.
Like, and
Right.
and I say it like that, like I have junkie pride, so I'll throw that out there. But I say it like that, not to degrade or talk down or add to the, what's the word?
Stigma.
I was going to say stimulus. Stigma. The stigma. But, at the end of the day, like when you put a bunch of people together, us junkies, alcoholics, like when we have a goal and a like-minded, we're all like-minded in what we're trying to do with our lives, like typically that is a very good thing.
Yeah.
So I've seen both extremes,
Yeah.
people talking themselves out of talking people into treatment that shouldn't be going to treatment, and then people talking someone out of treatment that should be.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't want them with those losers.
And again, it's a tightrope.
Yeah.
As far as like discerning, is it too soon? Is this too much? Is this not enough?
Yeah.
There's obvious case by case basis stuff that needs to happen, but I think it's always a good idea to get a professional involved when it comes to family members and what to do when they're in that state of crisis, because the nephew just overdosed or whatever the case may be, kind of thing.
Look at this perception too, and this is my opinion, Jaclyn. A few minutes ago, Jaclyn said, right before she got the band, it wasn't that bad.
Right.
I'm like, hello.
Right.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny how like we can't see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As an outsider looking in, I'm like, yeah, this girl, she's in the right place. You know, but it's funny how just a minute ago you're like, it wasn't that bad. But
Well, it could always get worse.
oh
And I
yeah,
think that's what we look at. It's not that it was that bad. It could get worse.
Yeah.
yeah.
And it got bad. I mean, it got so much worse every time I went back out.
Yeah.
Like,
And it's amazing how an addict can justify and rationalize
yes,
and
the
like,
lies we tell ourselves.
yeah.
That's what I was getting at. Yeah. You said it best. The lies we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
So when you came into rock, well, I want to get to that question that Maya answered. You didn't. Ben was alluding to it, the gift of desperation. When you were beat down and broken, and Maya referred to it as a beautiful thing, do you see it as that way?
I definitely do. I'm like certainly grateful that I ended up this way, because I just like now knowing what I know, I just like I'm so grateful that I get to go through this experience, and I see so many people that don't deal with addiction or like going to treatment or therapy. I know so many people that I deal with, all the time that are, just kind of going through life and dealing with really, really shitty things that happen to you, that happen to everybody, but they don't like seek any kind of help for it. Like I'm blessed that I get to go to therapy. I get to do the 12 steps, and it's literally a design for living to be happier and free. And like, I've been wandering around lost for years. I don't know how. It just blows my mind that like normal people just go through life and don't like have this. It's just it is a beautiful thing that comes out of it.
It's so funny how through going through this process and listening to you share this stuff, how in the beginning you didn't want to be in treatment, this sucks, to right now, this last time, you're like, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
What changed?
So I think what changed was I just became, or like came to a point where I was just willing to, all I had was a willingness to be open-minded. Like all I had was just to say, okay, I'll try it. I'll try it. I'll give it a chance. And I kind of just like fake it till you make it,
That's what I was going to say. I mean, you changed, but let's be real. I don't know that you changed. You didn't change in the sense of like you came in here with freaking bells on and ready to do the deal.
No.
What you did was
It was over time.
You gave it time. And that's what a lot of people do. And like the saying goes, they quit before the miracle happens. And
If I recall correctly, I'm just going to throw it out there. So
this could be dangerous.
Yeah, probably. Josh Gam.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Josh Gamatoni, he's a good friend of ours. He's been on the podcast previously, works for Banyan Treatment Centers.
He's
but
an angel.
he's the one that helped get Jaclyn in here. And I specifically remember I talked to you on the phone. And afterwards, this is the first time I'm telling her this, so sorry. Afterwards, I said to Josh, I'm like, dude, this girl does not want to be in treatment. And yeah, I don't know, man. Doesn't really sound like a fit. She just wants to do 2 weeks and just take off. And I'll be honest, I'm not sure that we want somebody here that doesn't want to be here. But Josh was like, come on, man, come on. I'm like, fine. But yeah, it's amazing. Like the open-mindedness is what you touched on. I think it's more that in your case, in my opinion, than the willingness. Like, don't get me wrong. Like you put one foot in front of the other. However, having the open mind to just say, you know what, screw it. Let me just roll with it. Because that's sometimes what it takes. Even if you're not fully willing, or you did it anyway. And that still counts.
Absolutely.
So
doesn't necessarily matter how you got here.
Yeah.
It's what you do when you get here that matters.
No, I was actually talking to a client today during group how I accidentally did the right thing a few times.
Yeah.
Like unintentionally did the right thing.
Yeah.
But in 2020 hindsight, I'm like, oh, this stuff makes sense now.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how we got there.
Yeah.
Jaclyn moved into our garage.
our
I
gym,
remember that.
our commercial size giant 2-door
Yeah.
gym.
Yam's like,
garage.
oh, she has just a few things that she
Couple
needs.
things. Yeah.
Her whole apartment
It
ended
was.
up getting, and we're like, a month later, Jaclyn, what do you got any plans for this stuff?
I was like, I don't know what what do you want me to do with it?
I will say, like, I don't know if I could have done what she did, because I was there for these belongings, and literally, this is no exaggeration. She moved with her entire apartment into Rock,
Yeah.
so we couldn't even like bring it to our housing. We had it all in our gym. It took up 60% of the floor in there, probably.
Yeah.
It was a lot. It was a giant storage unit. But there was a day in particular where we go out there and she just starts walking stuff to the dumpster. I don't know. I'm a little bit of a hoarder, probably. I don't know.
I am too.
I have a hard time getting rid of things, but I was like, look at this girl.
There's so many things I'm just like, I might wear this one day. I won't. But like at that point I was like, okay, maybe just like consider this like shedding a skin, This is stuff that I've kept for years. Like, just reminds me of, my darker days, and I'm trying to make a change. So
Honestly,
I threw away clothes and I dyed my hair.
That's how I saw it. Like I was watching this happen, and
Yeah.
I'm like you could see that literally happening.
Right in front of our face.
Yeah, no, it was pretty.
What
pretty
color
cool.
did you dye your hair again?
Purple.
That's right. I remember that.
It was a vibe.
Yeah.
It was a good
Yeah.
choice.
I was like, okay, so we're going through some emotional shit.
Yeah. It's a little bit of mania.
Sorry, my phone's been.
And actually, that's a piece I want you to touch on, because when you said you came down to Florida and right before you came back to treatment and things were getting bad, you said that your mental health was suffering, and that's actually been a really important piece for you, is the mental health piece and managing medication and keeping on top of that.
It's like one of the most important things to me now. Like it absolutely, before anything else, my mental health has to be in check.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
That was my question.
Yeah. I mean, I make sure that I stay on my medication. And I meet with Maya. I reach out to, my women in sobriety. I go to meetings. Once I start to stray away from that stuff, it takes a toll. I can feel it now, as where before I wouldn't even be able to like notice, or I don't know, maybe I didn't care to notice or whatever. And that would lead me back into a relapse.
I remember not long after you left, you called me and you were like, I'm out of my medication. And it was not good.
No.
And thank God you reached out and I got you some resources. And right away I was like, okay, let's get an appointment today, like right away.
Yeah.
And you did it.
Yeah.
So that has been a big piece for you.
It has.
What does it look like though? If you said when you stray away, it takes a toll. What's it look like?
A lot of depression.
Yeah.
Just like I can't quite handle my emotions. It affects my work, my job, my relationships, my really everything. It just affects any kind of motivation that I have. I can't get anything done. I feel extreme anxiety and depression, and it's like debilitating.
So, out of your privacy, won't ask you to jump into it in particular, but it sounds like antidepressants, stuff along those lines. Yeah.
Mood stabilizing.
I really like that this came up, because honestly, I don't think we talk about this enough, and we haven't had somebody on here that's like necessarily brought it up.
Yeah.
But we see very oftentimes, folks, the irony is we come in all whacked out on drugs, we get clean, and then we don't want to take a drug that's actually going to help us
Correct.
be better. And, at Rock, we're abstinent based. So like, but that doesn't mean that like stuff like Prozac, Trileptal, things along those lines, antidepressants, etc.
Non-narcotic.
Non-narcotic, yeah.
Yeah.
We utilize that stuff. It's not mood, mind altering.
Yeah.
There's no major highs and lows.
Correct.
You know, it's a very stable build up into consistency, so to speak. And, you know, I don't think we bring it up very often, but
Well, you should.
yeah, we definitely. Thank
now
you, Maya.
And now that I'm here, we can bring it up because it's a real thing.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, it's kind of like chicken or the egg,
Yeah.
because I know a majority of my clients who are suffering with co-occurring mental health issues, may it be depression, anxiety, bipolar, psychosis, you name it,
Borderline.
personality disorders, etc. A lot of times the drugs were a form of self-medicating.
Yep.
And because, you know, ADHD, that's a big one for self-medicating. And so then they come in here, you know, because now those drugs that they were self-medicating with have created negative consequences in their life, you know, and then they come in here and it's like we take that self-medication away and woo. And we want to make sure that we're simultaneously addressing any mental health issues, and not to even mention the fact that even somebody that doesn't necessarily have underlying mental health conditions will experience some impact from just going off the drugs in general because of what happens in the brain chemistry after you've been chronically abusing substances and then you quit. You know, depleted levels of dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, etc., crossed with the fact that the drugs were hijacking the brain's reward system and they're therefore telling them to repeat the behavior because they've laid the neural pathways, etc. So yeah.
I talk to our clients about this prior to on Tuesday nights when I do the group workouts. I explain the benefits of working out, but I also bring up medications. And, you know, one thing that's very important to understand as well is that, you know, our philosophy at Rock, and it's the philosophy that should be anywhere you go when it comes to medications, like it's not as if like we can give you a Prozac, an antidepressant, and poof, you're going to feel better.
No.
You have to follow it up with good, healthy coping mechanisms, good
Correct.
therapy, 12 steps, exercise, etc. And like Maya brought up, you know, the benefit to we kind of joke about it, but it's we call it the detox starter kit.
Yeah.
You know, like Maya's talking about, somebody goes to detox if they've been doing meth, cocaine, whatever the case may be, dopamine levels will be depleted.
Yeah.
Those antidepressants will
We'll get
help.
them through that initial period of the brain trying to heal itself and re-regulate.
Exactly. And this is a really good example, being with Jaclyn here, where there's some folks that they might only need that in the beginning, and this is why it's so important. The longer you can do treatment, the better.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, there is a day when
100%.
you've been in treatment too long, and we'll tell you to, you know,
Well, right,
spread
because
your wings.
post-acute withdrawal is up to 2 years.
Yeah, but with that being said, like some people find their zero baseline 3 to 6 months down the road after their last high. And some people may not need medications.
Yeah,
at
I'll
that
use
point.
myself as a perfect example because when I came off drugs, and remember, benzodiazepines and Xanax and opiates were my drugs of choice. And I remember coming off the drugs, and I mean, when I tell you that my anxiety was like through the roof. I mean, I was doing Xanax for 15 years straight or whatever it was. So like now I'm not on anything. You know, and I went on anti-anxiety medication when I was in treatment. And then I remember I was getting ready to leave and I told the psychiatrist, I was like, I'm stopping everything. And he's like, well, let's talk about that because we should probably like titrate and like you're going through a transition now, that kind of thing. But eventually that's what I did. And then, like you said, the medication in conjunction with the recovery program, the connections, the women, the support.
It's
the
not
therapy.
a one cure, you know? It's not just
No.
And let's use like diabetes as an example. If somebody has diabetes and they need insulin, no doctor, no professional is ever going to go up and say, hey, stop taking your insulin. But however, it's going to also coincide with, hey, you should take your insulin,
You should
but you should also
exercise.
start exercising,
Eat
eating
healthy.
better, etc.
Yeah.
So it's holistic, and
Yes.
it's important to look at it that way.
But there are situations where, and this is where agree, but also want to respectfully disagree to a certain extent of like, no, the doctor is not going to go up to you and say, okay, let's take you off your insulin, but maybe they should, or at least help you understand, okay, and I've referenced this many times in the past. Here's your insulin, and I need you to do 60 minutes of just walking a day. Let's start there. Here's your insulin, 60 minutes of walking a day. We're going to do that for 2 weeks. And then after 2 weeks, 60 minutes of walking, and then 60 minutes of strength training for the week. We're going to start there, run that for 2 weeks. Now we're going to change your nutrition. Now we're going to, tweak this a little bit with the end goal of being
lifestyle change.
I want to get you off your insulin.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of this stuff
fails,
gets missed is let's just throw a pill at it. Let's just throw, an insulin shot there, you know. They got medications now that they're giving out to children for obesity. And it's like, well, here, instead of just, not stuffing donuts down your freaking face hole, just take this shot and it's going to coincide, it's going to counteract.
I agree with you, Tom.
It's like.
That's like now. So I slowly learned to live a new lifestyle, but it took time because I had to change everything. And I slowly went back to spiritual practice, meditation. I went back to exercise. I was an athlete as a kid and then had gone years without doing anything. So I had to kind of slowly creep back into that. And then I got to a place where I was conditioned again and, feeling great. And now I don't take any medication. I haven't for years. And the only time I ever have anxiety is like when I'm coming on your show.
Let me ask. Well, let me ask this, because I agree with what Tom said, and at the end of the day, I just want to make it very clear, if with all these other healthy changes, you do need to stay on an
100%.
antidepressant. So let me ask Jaclyn this. How long were you at Rock? How long were you under our roof? Like, doesn't matter what level of care.
It was a while.
No, it wasn't.
It was a pretty while.
Well,
No, because
well, it might not seem like in the scheme of
Are you
things, but
talking
it was a
sober
number of
living or
months.
treatment? Or
All of it. Number of months.
I left and came back.
You did?
To house manager.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
How long was that process till you moved out the last time?
That was not very long.
4 months total?
Yeah.
You were in treatment easy 4 months. I want to say longer.
No, I wasn't because my insurance cut out, and you guys scholarship me a month. So there's that.
Tom kicked you out. Is that what you said? Don't worry, he'll edit that.
Yeah, edit that.
But you were with us and in touch with us and interacting with us.
Since she came, Jaclyn
I
has
have been in touch.
not been in touch with us.
Right.
Fair enough. It's so hard to get a point across with these two. Where I'm going with this is that regardless, it was probably from the day you came in here into the garage with all your belongings to the final time that you left our housing, that was probably a solid 4 months, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. What I was getting at is that, kind of like Tom was saying, you know how he kept saying 2 weeks walk, 2 weeks strength train, building. To any parent or loved one or addict out there that thinks they can go to a 30-day treatment center and change all this overnight, not possible. This is why, and Tom and I, we get this all the time when we answer the phone. They're like, how long is the program? We're like, generally people stay in our clinical setting 90 to 120 days. And they're like, what? All these other places are 30 days. And the reality of the situation is if you listen to our conversation, there's no such thing as miracle workers in this field. You can't do this in 30 days.
No way.
And I think a lot of times parents are under the impression I'm going to send my kid away for 30 days and then all of a sudden they're going to come back and poof. Mm-hmm. It takes the body. Maya brought up post-acute withdrawal, pause. That can last up
Fog
to...
is just lifting after 30
Yeah,
days.
so
they're just figuring out where they're at after 30 days.
Fact of the matter is they're probably even more insane at 30 days without alcohol.
Yeah.
and
That's
drugs.
valid
Exactly.
too.
So my point is like it takes time. You know, and we need that time to get to that zero baseline. We need to see what it really looks like when Jaclyn's off of substances for 4 months.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it is true. Jaclyn's never left. She's like here all the time.
And I mean, just to kind of wrap up that whole conversation about the medication, coming from a clinical perspective, sometimes they'll be able to go off the medication and sometimes they won't.
Yeah.
You know, and it just depends. It's case by case.
Jaclyn, how long you been sober now?
Going on 19 months.
19 months. Whoa. Time flies.
Yeah, right?
Let me touch on this. This was important coming into this because I always think about it from things that our clients could learn and probably need to hear from somebody. One thing that I recollect with you, and I want you to touch on how this built up. A lot of our clients, they want to jump into being the CEO of some major, you know, Forbes company or whatever, however you say it, Fortune 500 company. There it is. Where did you start your first job when you were at Rock to what was the progression and where are you working now? Because I think it's important. At 19 months, in my opinion, she's doing some pretty cool stuff for work.
So my first job was a tanning salon.
I remember that.
Yeah. And
I remember that.
I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I don't have any way to get there. Like, you want to force me to get a job right now? But they were like, you got to humble yourself. And I was like, humble myself?
Bad enough. I'm going to work at a tanning salon.
Yeah.
Remember when she bought
In
the
Florida.
car? I forgot about when you bought the car.
Oh, yeah. You still have that
gosh.
Tom almost
have
lost
it.
his mind.
I
Still
almost
have
lost
it.
my mind.
Yep.
Good.
Proved us wrong there.
Yeah.
All right. So tanning salon.
Kind of.
Tanning salon, yes. I worked there and I was walking to work and
You hear that, parents? She was walking to work. So if your kid calls you from treatment saying they can't get anywhere with an Uber, I'm calling BS.
I'm calling BS.
Yeah, but then she went and bought a $25,000 car without anybody knowing.
Which she financed
Right.
with zero
Yeah,
down
she did it on her own, Tom.
And I've made every payment.
at 24.3%.
Gonna pay $50,000 for it.
And she nearly did have a meltdown.
Yeah.
But
I did. Oh my
she was
God.
like, oh my God, I bought something I shouldn't have bought.
Yeah, she
I did a
did
thing.
do something impulsively,
I
but she's
did.
followed through with it.
Yeah.
I'll say that much.
Yeah.
It's a commitment. Yeah, you got to keep it.
Yeah.
You've done well.
Yeah.
Tanning salon, then what?
Tanning salon and then a mess of different things in between. Now I work at a treatment center doing admissions.
Right on.
Getting
So look at that. At 19, and how long ago did you start that job? Just a couple months, 4
Yeah, like-
months ago?
4 months ago.
4 months ago. So you had, let's call it a year and a half. You know, that goes back to something Tom and I have covered on previous podcasts. Like, you know, we get a lot of clients that come to Rock and they're like, I want to be a therapist, you know, and next thing you know, they're trying to work in treatment when they've not found the solution themselves and some solid sobriety. And I think it's a really good example. Like, in my opinion, Jaclyn did it right. You know, it sucked. It sounds like working at a tanning salon and having to walk to work, but in only a year and a half time, like, got herself into a professional, very respectable professional position, like, and is doing that now. But she did it the proper way, and I believe that's why it's worked out the way it's worked out.
Yeah, there's something to be said about like actually grinding. And I'm not like, you know, one of the Instagram #hustle, #grind, or #rise and grind. Jaclyn's
You
done
totally could be.
very well at paving the way. You know, you've done very well at paving the way for yourself and doing all the things that we expect people to do. And, you know, there's something to be said for that, because I'm sure that everything that you have achieved up to this point is extremely valuable to you, right?
It definitely is.
And this is where I am a firm believer in tangible items as well being extremely important in early sobriety, because you've built up a lot in a short period of time. 19 months is, I mean, it's a great. I mean, you're coming up on almost 2 years. You've built a lot up and you can lose it all in a matter of a weekend, probably. And that's why I think it's important, because now there comes a point in time where motivations have to switch, because the tangible things aren't going to keep you sober. They're not going to keep you sober long term, but they could keep you sober short term. And it sounds like you've gotten to that point, because you just said it, that for you, it's an all-encompassing approach. You have the spiritual component, you have your mental health component, the physical component, and you have a good balance of all of those, which has made you who you are today. But, if one of those things gets a little off kilter, again, like you said, all bets could be off, so I commend you. I really do. I think you're doing awesome. And, it's a testament too, because I remember when Gam called, and I remember when you came in, and I remember Ben and I looking at each other like, oh boy, and the garbage bags full of stuff, and the, just all that going on.
I remember her saying to me, coming out of her first or second group
with Ben
and
Harrison,
saying, I can't speak, like I can't articulate what I'm feeling, and I'm afraid to say anything in there, kind of thing.
Yeah.
To now she's coming and speaking at Family Weekend as one of our alum, you know what I mean? Like it's phenomenal, and it's so cool to watch.
I want to throw one more thing out to the parents here, and I think the proof is in the pudding. I'm really glad we have her here with the examples that she used, but I believe that she's hung on to everything because she earned it herself. And our last family weekend we had an Al-Anon speaker come in that defined enabling as, she said, don't do something for your loved one that they can do for themselves. And like just the car as an example. We so oftentimes will have clients, for instance, that are like, I can't get anything done unless I have a car. So mom and dad send them a car. What do? They use that car to get high. But when they have skin in the game, like Jaclyn does, and she went and like, granted, it was impulsive.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like if you really get down to it, it's something that she did on her own, and she's handled it responsibly since. I bet you don't want to lose that thing, because, you worked for it. It wasn't just handed to you. It means something. Yeah. And it probably means something to your own self-esteem. And it's because it's something you did on your own. Like if I ask you, hey, Jaclyn, how'd you get that nice car? You don't have to be like, oh, mommy and daddy gave it to me. She gets to say, what I hustled hard, got that thing myself.
Grinded.
Hashtag grinded. Yeah, there we go.
That's good, Ben.
Right? I try.
Well, listen, for
Trying
the
to
sake of
impress
time,
Maya.
we're coming up on 1 hour. That was fun. See, was it that bad?
it was pretty bad.
No. Maya, any final thoughts?
No, I'm just really, it's so cool. I mean, unfortunately, a big part of working in treatment is dealing with loss. And so I'm just so blessed and grateful when I have clients like Jaclyn who stay in touch and come and talk to us and come and see us, because it reminds me of why I do this in the first place. And it's just been an honor and a privilege to work with her and to be a part of her journey. So that's all I got.
Ben?
I like it when I'm wrong. I say that sometimes.
So then often.
Yeah, but in a
you
good
like
way.
it.
Check this out. Like, I do this. I'll only speak for myself. I'm willing to bet you all do it too. But there's people that come through our door, and I'm saying to myself, this person's either going to make it or not make it.
Yeah.
And when Jaclyn came to us, I'm like, this ain't this girl's last treatment.
Yeah.
She ain't making it. And today I'm wrong, and today I'm glad I'm wrong.
Amen.
Thank you for proving me wrong. Like, and that just goes to show, like, doesn't matter where you're at in this process. You have the open-mindedness that she talked about. Just put one foot in front of the other. You ended up doing the work. Poof. Look where you're at today. Yeah. It's beautiful.
Jaclyn, any final thoughts?
I have a lot of thoughts. I feel like what you just said, Maya, I literally just had a conversation with Rose yesterday, actually, about, we were talking about, certain people passing away, and, how we were saying we can't imagine, like, how much you guys see, and, you can see how much it affects you guys. even though you see it all the time. And I was like, that's why I like to come in and visit all the time. And so they get to see like, they're, you know, these people
The
are still
success
making
stories.
it. Yeah. And you guys helped me do that. So,
That's cool.
yeah.
You know what's cool this week? I'll just touch on like how many of our current clients and past alumni have I've seen them do it with others, but they've done it with me as well. Like ask me how I'm doing, because Tom and I just touched on it the last podcast we did. Like a couple people we know passed away, and you know we do see sad stuff, but at the end of the day, my exact answer to them is exactly what she just said. It's these success stories.
Absolutely.
That's why we keep doing it. And like, yeah, it is sad at times, but at the end of the day, this
Worth
stuff, it's worth it.
Oh, it far exceeds.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's about it. We're ready to wrap this up
Absolutely.
With the bow?
with the bow.
Are you going to do a closing song? A closing jingle?
I feel like you're going to sing for us, Maya.
Yeah,
I mean-
why don't you?
Well,
You said you
Whitney
could freestyle earlier.
I don't want to,
Sing Whitney Houston.
I don't want
I've done this plenty of times. If you'd like to do it one time, you can.
I don't want to steal your fan base.
It's there's nothing for them to go to.
Yeah, you're right, because I can't sing for shit. Although I did used to think for many, 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 many years that I was a phenomenal singer.
How do you know you're not?
Well, finally somebody told me I was tone deaf. But if you're tone deaf, you can't hear that you're not carrying a tune because you're tone deaf.
Yeah.
So in my own mind, I sound like Mariah Carey. And actually, I was kind of pissed because I was okay with thinking that I sang well.
Maybe I'm tone deaf.
So you're
man.
hearing voices.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yes.
Uh-oh. Let's start diagnosing. Let's bust out the DSM.
All right, let's wrap this up. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Real Recovery Talk. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us. Tom at realrecoverytalk.com and Ben at realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, Jaclyn, what we are trying to do is...
Turn your mess into a message.
close. Turn your mess into
your
mess.
message.
That is it. We will see y'all